Hey, Helena. Would you tell me a little bit about some of your favorite transformations with selfconcept.com?
So the favorite one, really my favorite one is regards to my love life. So I have a pattern of choosing wrong partners, different reasons. And basically I did couple of other programs trying to sort it out, and I learned something during those programs. But basically when I joined self-concept and start learning about it, I noticed that the qualities that I really do need to transform, it was loving and lovable. And I was diving and working on those two qualities, right? And sorting my database. And I did printing with one of the coaches. And basically the outcome that I'm like happy to share is that I'm in a great relationship for last year. And it's a relationship of my dream. And the man that I'm in a relationship with is something that I was wanting really. And the other day I was going through some of my notes, and I found the notes from August 2 years ago, where I was listing the qualities that I would like my partner to have. And I listed like 200 points. And I can happily report that my partner has 197. So he's 2 centimeters taller than I wanted, and he has like less square meters that I was like wanting. But I was very detailed, if you can imagine, the 200 points. So, and I'm really having time of my life. And you know, sometimes I just think that all this, basically the suffering and the pain with what I have today was really worth. But without self-concept, I do not think that understanding what I need to do would be there. And as well, the tool how to transform that would not be in place for myself. So, and honestly, I did a lot of changes for myself, right? From like being more in peace and calm and more relaxed and ease, less reactive. So I did a lot of changes, but basically this one that's connected with my love life was the one that I'm very proud of, right? And it's something that I share because it kind of changed immediately. I will just tell you that we did transformation in December, and basically I met him in January.
Wow.
It was really the fast one, I can tell you.
Oh, that's great. And you were mentioning earlier in our conversation about expanding the scope a little bit of loving, or can you share a little bit about that, or what you're referencing?
And you know what I will give you one example. So, and it was really example when I was transforming the quality that I got aware of. So I had my close friend, and she would be talking to me, and she would talk about her partner in a very negative way, and I would be triggered, and then I would say bad things about her partner, right? And after the call, I would really feel bad with myself, right? And when I start working on being loving, I start noticing these patterns, right? Because in conversation with her, I would be doing something that was not my value, that I was not respecting. But as well, after the call, I would feel so guilty, and I was proving myself that for my behaviors, I'm not a good person. And, you know, and if I'm not a good person, I'm not a loving person. You know, how somebody else can love me if I'm doing things like this, right? And without self-concept, I was like even not noticing what I'm doing that was not according to my values, right? So I was like practicing behavior who was supporting me in the way to think about myself that I'm not good enough or good person to be loved.
Oh, right.
So that's one of the examples that I discovered on my journey, right? What I was doing basically to myself.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. And then what did you do about it?
I transformed it. It was like, you know, like when you take an example and you I'm a visual type, obviously, and you look at that example, like, and you start asking those questions from the parts integrations, really, right?
Sure.
Like you start getting understanding what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
What's your part in that interaction that I had with my friend? And then I start as well, like widening that, like what I was doing to myself after that call. Because, you know, like the call is one thing, we talk, and I got triggered, right? And I kind of, there's a couple of aspects, right? So basically I would go with a call with her. She would say something, what he did to her, I would get triggered because I was as well associating with her. So I was not disassociated from her problem. Like I was very involved with her, like identifying myself with her position, right? So that is something that we need to understand as well. And then like how I would feel after that call, right? Because, you know, in the call, I would be triggered. I would be kind of aggressive, reactive. But then I would feel bad because I was behaving in that way, right? So there's two aspects of that situation, like what are you doing? What is your behavior? Why are you doing that, right? As well, it's bringing you understanding, but then as well, you know, what's wrong? Why I feel this way? Like what I'm doing to myself. So basically, you know, and then you just like, I did fast calculation that I spent 5 years having this same conversation with the same person, and she was not taking any decisions on her side, but I was kind of constantly involved in a certain looping.
Yeah.
And then you imagine that if you had like conversation, I did average because I like to analyze. I analyzed that I spent like maybe 200 hours talking about that problem with her. And you know what? It's 200 cases where I proved to myself that I'm not a good person.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how often you were doing this and how often you were like, you know, making this path, I'm not loving, I'm not good enough, why I'm saying this kind of things, right? And again, things are happening in the way that you are noticing that you do not feel good for what are you doing, but I did not have the tools to understand really, right? What is happening inside of me.
Yeah.
And self-concept changed that. Changed like, if I'm going back like this, that I start understanding that I associate very much when people are having problems. I get very to them, which needs to stop, right? And then as well, like that I'm triggered in a way with something, and I'm reacting in the way that I'm getting verbally aggressive, which I do not respect as the behavior, and then how I feel afterwards. So it has the elements, right? And all things that I learned with the self-concept, basically it gave me the tool to understand the situation from different angles, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good work. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure that that's going to inspire someone to make certain changes as well.
I will say, if you have problems with relationships, just loving and lovable are the good qualities to start with.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.